Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is the press. We're reaching you live from KAFTAN television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Now let's go straight to analyzing the stories that we read out to you. And my guest on the show today is Habib Gajo, who is a political economist and Bureau de Change operator. Great to have you on the show again this morning.
Thank you, Annable. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. Good morning.
Nigerians.
All right, so our phone lines are open. You can call in to make your contributions or ask your question, but please leave it at 1 minute so we don't waste each other's time. All right, and let's start with the Guardian newspaper. Talks about the increased inflation, and then you know the Guardian will definitely give you infographics and pictures to every story that they talk about. Now the infographic there talks about essential commodity price crisis from March 2023 to March 2024. Food inflation rate hit 40.53% in April from March to 40.01%. And then they talk about the increase in rice. That bag of rice increased by 152%, beans 106%, yam 141.25%, gari 112%, pepper 79.2%, and then bread 20.5%. But then they say that the high cost of transportation amid fuel scarcity remains a key driver to inflation. But on the flip side, you have at 33.69% Nigeria's inflation at the highest rate since March 1996, where interest rate is at 27 or 24.75%. Let's get your thoughts in this regards.
Well, I think the Guardian has break it the way it is, but it need to be elaborated so that Nigerians will understand. What it means is that, you see, labor, the federal government workers, on the negotiation table, federal government is proposing 47,000 naira a month, and for private sector is
48,000 for public for federal government, then for 54,000 for private sector, but then labor is saying they want over 600,000.
Yes, and they did their calculation very well. I had one of the labor leader was saying that as a family of 5, their feeding cost is 500 naira per person. Now, if you calculate 500 for a family of 5, you will get almost how many thousands? Now, NBS also brought out their own statistics of March and April. Put it as a household per person, 900 naira. So if you put that together, a whooping of almost 30,000 from the Labour Party, Labour Union, then from Bureau of Statistics is almost 9,000 per day. So if you put that together a month, you will see that the 45,000 naira, 47 naira, 58,000 naira that they are proposing, only food has swallowed it.
You've not talked of electricity or transportation.
Electricity, transportation. No, they did not even put electricity. They put transportation as almost 50,000. Healthcare and housing, they put it as 50,000 a month. So if you if you look at the breakdown of labor, it's almost 600 and something per month for a federal worker to survive, for a private sector employee to survive. That's what it means. So the difficulties, and the government is coming far, far behind. The federal government need to look at this and check and see the reality.
So what is the reality? Agreeing to 600,000?
Yes.
Is that doable?
It's doable. Because if you look at the inflation rate, food inflation rate is hitting 41, in some states 47. Now, if you are living in, like in Kogi State, it's higher. If a mudu gari is 500 naira 2 months ago, now gari will hit almost 1,000 naira per mudu in Kogi State. In Kwara, also the same thing. The difference is just 7 naira. The difference. So these are the key states that inflation, food inflation, hit so much. In Edo State, they have low living standard of living, and the governor rise to the occasion and implement 70,000 salary increment. You understand? So that 70,000, as for Edo, is good. They are good to go. But the rest of the state and the federal workers, I don't think they will survive this high cost of living, cost of food, medical, and housing.
But then don't you think that you just contradicted what you just said? Because I asked you if 600,000 is doable. You said yes, it's doable. So if you go to Edo State and then they agree to pay 70,000, then how do you now tell the Edo State people to now start think, or the Edo State government to now change to over 600,000?
You see, Edo State has done a lot. The Governor Obaseki has done a lot. He has provided these CNG buses. He has taken care of the transport, health care, and so on. So 70,000 is okay and manageable for a worker.
But then the federal government is going to roll out CNG buses in May 29. So let's believe that it has solved the transportation quagmire.
Since May 29, when the federal government removed the subsidy, or the president removed the subsidy, he promised CNG buses. Labour has not seen it. You have not entered one. I have not seen one. So the federal government, that is why I said they are coming far behind. They have to step up. And the federal government need to look inward and see what is the reality on ground. The economic is biting harder and harder and harder. If you look at the central bank monetary policy, they hike everything, lending rate, borrowing, and so on and so forth. Everything, they increase almost everything. So how do you expect the inflation to go down? One, we don't have a transportation system that will transport food and commodities. We don't have a transportation that will transport the workers to their place of work at affordable price. No. Today, there is a fuel scarcity. All filling stations have different prices. Only NNPC is selling at 617 naira. The rest is almost 700, in some state 800, 900. So if you enter a public transportation where it is 200 naira before, now it's 500 naira. So to come to work is more difficult than to stay where you are.
All right.
This is the main issues and the problem that federal government need to come to the reality.
All right, let's
check.
Let's still stay on both the economy and all of this. Now you have the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, that's Dr. Matthew Hassan Kuka, who visited President Bola Ahmed Tinubu yesterday, and then he came back to say, you find in almost all the papers, Nations reports that he says building a good society takes time, coming from Bishop Matthew Kuka. And then I beg your pardon, and then on Guardian newspaper says Nigerians facing various levels of pain, Kuka tells Tinubu. But on the flip side, he says that Tinubu's, I saw a particular headline where he said that Tinubu's government mean well for Nigerians, and that 1 year, because I'm sure he would have been asked to assess the government or evaluate the administration for this last 1 year, going to 365 days, and then he says that 1 year is not enough to assess his government. But then he's always been on the side of, if they're not doing well, you tell them. So how all of a sudden, so should we then say that truly 365 days is not enough to assess the government? Because I hear you say in May 29 they said fuel subsidy is gone and then CNG buses will be arriving, but we are yet to see anyone. Let's get your thoughts in that regard.
Yes, I think Reverend Matthew Kuka played a smart politics on that.
You think so?
Yes. 100 days is enough to assess a government that meant well for Nigerians or for a country.
Did you say 100 days?
100 days. Because in 100 days, you are going to roll out your own plan, agendas, missions, and what you are set to achieve. You understand? In the next 1 year, what you roll out, it will start manifesting. We have seen several governments that did that. Obasanjo did that. In 100 years, he achieved. I think General Murtala, in less than 100 years, he has achieved a lot.
You mean 100 days?
Yes. Umar Musa Yar'Adua, also in 100 days, he achieved a lot. He ended the Niger Delta crisis in 100 years. In 100 days, he rolled out his plan, his economic plan. He fought corruption. He implemented e-payment before it was due process. Obasanjo introduced a due process. Umar Musa Yar'Adua reformed it to procurement. You understand? He introduced procurement bill, and on that, he now, every contractor will be paid e-payment. You understand? You just receive alert from the bank, unlike before where they will write check, you go through this office, you go through the director of finance, and so on and so forth. Before your money is being paid, it takes you almost half of the year. If you finish your work and then you receive alert. Pensioners are dying on the road. Pensioners are suffering. We have seen them in Abuja, we have seen them in everywhere gathering. And Umar Musa Yar'Adua said, pay them E. Salaries of police and military, pay them E. Civil servant, pay them e-payment. So that's how alert came. You see, you always reform. But when Jonathan took over, in 100 days, he made it as a report card, where him and Sunusi Lamido and so on, Ngozi Ukonjo Owela, they roll out their plans. And they have achieved some, despite all the crises in the political arena of Nigeria. But at least he has achieved something. Buhari came, has not achieved anything. He even promised us that he would generate employment of 10 million Nigerians. Another year, May 29, he promised 100 million Nigerians will be employed. And he left, leaving us with poverty, malnourished, suffering, bandit, terrorists, and so on and so forth.
Interesting.
So, for Reverend Matthew Kuka to say that it's not 100 days is not enough, I think he played a ball of politics. You understand? But but for him to say that, telling Tinubu that Nigerians are suffering, I think that one is he meant well on that, and true Nigerians are suffering.
All right, because you mentioned pensions, let's stay on that story. This one on this day says, Atiku, federal government plan to use 20 trillion naira pension fund for infrastructure projects misguided. Let's get your thoughts on that.
Yes, it's misguided. Atiku is right in the sense that Buhari borrowed from pension, and today pensioners are suffering. And if Tinubu goes to that line again, I think more pensioners will be in trouble. We have seen that during Buhari. And nothing happened. And up till today, we have not had what they have done with the money they borrowed from pension, and we have not seen it. It has not impacted in Nigerians or in Nigerians' life, and the pensioners remain poor.
But then if it is a breach on if there's a breach of the Pensions Reform Act, why does it look like a juicy pocket for president or executives to go there to borrow?
Yeah, that is why I'm telling you. You see,
like the IMF loans, the World Bank loans, the Paris Club loans, they're not working anymore. So now let's take from our own fathers and mothers.
You see, recently we started having leaders lack focus, foresight, and so on. You understand? And lack of capacity to turn around the economy in another way to get the result is one of the key problems of this government and the government appointees from 2015 to date. Because in 2015, we were not on this pedestrian bridge that will break, that will collapse. Because the way things are going, Nigerian economy is heading to a collapse. Every day, inflation is going up. Now, the most worrisome things in salary increment. It will now also put inflation rate in a higher level than what it is now. So there need to be a balance on the salary, on the economy, and the infrastructure, both agriculture, electricity, and housing, transportation. I think if the government roll out those plans and implemented it, things will go down. It will drop. The inflation rate will drop. Because now farmers don't go to the farm again. Only few goes. Only secured states are farming. Some are not farming because banditry, kidnapping, and so on. Some farmers pay tax to this bandit. You see, when Boko Haram started, it started with saying, it's poverty, unemployment, and so on and so forth. Now, it's hunger and starvation that make vulnerable Nigerians to be criminals and terrorists.
It's really a sad situation. Now, just when you thought that you've heard it all, you just find out another headline that comes out. The Daily Times says Senate approves Tinubu's $500 million loan approval, and that loan is supposed to go for supplying meters. I remember having a conversation with an oil and gas expert last weekend where we're talking about electricity, and then he made the mention of how would you want to buy fuel, and then you are the one that is supposed to supply what is going to be used to fuel your car, or how it should be used to fuel your car. Or for example, how would you be the one to supply the meter that the disco will now use to supply you electricity? I'm the one that would give you the meter, so give me the electricity, and yet you tell me not to tamper with the electricity. That means there has been corruption around that privatization and everything that has to do with electricity. So I'm wondering, if you privatize that sector and then you have other businessmen running around it, why is the government still providing loans that will be used to meter those to help those private sector, give them meters so that you can go and give Nigerians, and then yet those it kind of looks shaky, don't you think?
Yeah, it's shaky. You see, the privatization was done in a good faith by former President Olusegun Obasanjo, from NEPA to PHC and holding company, you understand? And I think there is generation, distribution, and consumption. So the federal government holds the generation,
the transmission,
the transmission, and the consumption is on the other side. Now, at that time, the meters are almost free. So later, they now put 50,000 to 70,000 per meter. I think single line is 50,000. The industrial one is 70,000 per meter. At that time, there is a charges they used to put in your meter. If you bought 5,000 units, 2,000 will be deducted as a service charge of your meter. So when you finish paying, you understand, through your unit, then the meter belongs to you.
Right.
And that's what happened during Umar Musa Yar'Adua and President Jonathan. So when Buhari came, he came with another things that the privatization was done selfishly. People around, or the cabals, or those friends and family are the one that acquire the those are the discos and other companies. You understand? Because government is subsidizing that the transmission. All of the sudden, Buhari came and changed everything, and the electricity workers and Nigerians took the discos and jinkos to court. You understand? With the federal government. And then the minister is the former governor of Lagos State, Fashola. the case went up to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court ruled against the federal government in favor of Nigerians and those companies. You must meter every house before you charge them for electricity. What it means is that any house that is not being metered, you can't charge, how do they call it, unmetered bill. You understand? So that unmetered bill, according to that Supreme Court judgment, is illegal. And Fashola, as a senior advocate, as a lawyer, refused to implement. Had it been at that time when they got that judgment, they now supply meters to every household, we won't be in this crisis. Because now if you recharge your meter with your own unit, maybe 50,000 units a month or 2 months or 3 months, it depends on how you use it. You understand? But who is not metered and was brought a bill of 90,000, 100,000?
That's the estimated billing.
The estimated billing, 90,000. Definitely, you know there is a corruption. There is cheating. Those who are estimated billing are suffering. They are paying what they have not consumed. They are paying for darkness, not they are paying for light.
So why is the federal government, why do they need to get a loan of $500 million and to help the discos meter people's houses, and yet those people they buy those and you're told don't tamper with your meter? And why is the federal government inside here?
The reason why is because they removed that subsidy on the electricity. So if they remove subsidy from electricity and they hike the price like they did band A, band 2, band A will pay this, band B will pay this, band C will pay that. You understand? So what of those who don't have meters? So you need to meter them. Now you come back to the Supreme Court judgment that you must meter them before you charge them. So federal government need to find a way of doing that, and that is why they borrowed that 500 million for metering.
So who now owns those meters? Is it the federal government property or the discos or the customer?
That's what that's what we want the federal government to explain. We borrowed $500 million to buy meters so that we can meter you, but the meters are not free. You understand? Or the meters are being subsidized. We procure it at maybe 70,000, but we will give you at 50,000. You understand? How are you going to pay it? You are going to pay cash, or you are going to pay by deduction of your unit, like what Eradua did. You understand? So they need to come up with that. But you know, whatever the government of APC is doing it in the dark. So that
does it have anything to do with political party?
Of course. In a democracy, nothing happens without a political party agenda, manifesto, and economic plan. Nothing happens. You can't do anything without your party agenda. So this is how it is. That is why some parties, when you hear, for example, a democratic party, you know they are purely on democratic values.
All right.
When you hear progressive, you understand, you know that is all about progress.
So this one this one is about progress then?
And the progress is negative. You understand? It's not a positive progress. And that's what we are seeing. The progressive supposed to be a progressive government that will provide everything to the society, like or to the country, like a socialist party. You understand? Whatever they are going to do to progress, they will do it in a socialist agendas or manifestos or a line on that. But the Democrat will also go for the constitutionality, the rule of law, you understand, and bringing people together and give them their own right. That is why during PDP, People Democratic Party, you have freedom of information bill, freedom of this, freedom of that. You understand? It's all about, it has to do with the party line.
All right, so we actually have a lot of things to discuss, but we have less than 5 minutes before we end this segment. But I'll ask you 2 questions, and I'd like you to take them together if you can help us in the next 3 minutes. Now, Vanguard and other papers says governors have killed local governments. That's coming from the Senate. And then I remember the governor of Rivers State coming up with that policy of paying the local government directly, which was applauded by a lot of people. But then we know that will definitely bring a lot of that's like stepping on a lot of people's, especially some other governors' toes. But then on the flip side, you have story coming from Rivers saying that some of the commissioners, or 5 of them again, have resigned. Let's get your thoughts in that regard. Even seeing what if coming from the Senate saying that governors have killed the local government. That's one on the side. And then secondly, Vice President Shettima says that the federal government subsidized Hajj, this Hajj movement where people have already started traveling with 90 billion naira. Let's get your thoughts very quickly.
Well, first of all, it's true that the governors have killed local government. Local government is also a tier of government.
Let's quickly take this call before you go ahead, Habib Gajo. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Collins from Otupong, Benue State. Go ahead.
Yeah. About the issue you just brought concerning the local government. You know, if happens that really the governors follow up with most of their manifestos, then that is the right thing to do. As a governor, or especially, I don't know whether they have countered that issue. The governor, which will serve for 8 years, after just that 8 years, with everything they have got, they are still giving pensions as the governor of the state. Okay, look at the chairman of the thing now. After their tenure, they are not found, or maybe they happens to get another political post or something of our appointment. So if the money has been paid directly, what we have to know is this. One, just like in my state, the governor has sent a delegation whereby the people working under each local government, their names, their address, everything in their profile has been gotten down. That is why he happens to get to most of the ghost workers that these are politicians have fixed to collect, who some are collecting 200, 300, 130,000 a month. And if all these people are being screened out, when this money is sent to the local government and the ghost workers are being screened out, the people at work are being paid. There are a lot of money on ground that can be used for security and infrastructures.
All right.
So if such a thing has been agreed by all the governors, it happens that their heart is clear, just like my governor, I know we are going forward in politics.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Collins from Otupong, Benue State. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So the governors have killed the local government, because before it's local government that pays primary school teachers. The schools belongs to the local government.
Healthcare.
Market belongs to the local government, healthcare belongs to the local government, and so on and so forth. You understand? Now, the governors will collect their allocation and give them only running cost. So they have nothing to do. You see a governor commissioning borehole, which is the responsibility of a councillor.
Right.
You understand? Now, when we come back, that's a purely corruption and undermining and stepping on violation of 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, when we go to the next one,